Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. Today's date, November the 15th, 2023, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm the host, most Will Buchanan, How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do try to find sources from the most reputable places that actually do have an investigative, award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, Newsmax, The Blaze, or wherever the extreme left or right may be. That's simply not us. Also, we do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly. At the same time, guys, there may be things that might be shown that might be too graphic for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. You know what? On this wonderful hump day, guys, I got some news that it's just, what I talked about? I mean, there's nothing we can talk about first, but the presidential race that is going to be happening in 2024. And of course, the big story, as we keep talking about, is the Republican nomination. I mean, at this point, yes, there is some news on the Democratic side that there may be some challengers to Biden that may be all well and good, but let's be honest, the news is with the Republicans. And you might be playing this wonderful video game show of who wants to beat a convict and be president. That's pretty much what it is, because Trump, again, has yet to enter a debate. They're on debate 3, about to go into debate 4. Dorito has not shown up, and he says the same thing all the time. I am leading in the polls, which, to his credit, he is. At the same time, others are slowly dropping out. America's creepiest Christian, Mike Pence, has already suspended his campaign, which means that when they suspend campaigns, none of the actual funds that they actually collected has to go back. They can sit on them until they decide to run again. First, it was America's creepiest Christian. Now, it's America's blackest Uncle Tom, this side of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Yes, I said it. Senator Tim Scott has announced he is suspending his campaign being president of the United States. Gee, a black man running in a nearly white party that does not care about minorities, stop your shot. Who knew?
North Carolina's Senator Tim Scott has dropped out of the race for the White House. Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, kicked off his campaign with a message of optimism and a $22 million war chest, but he struggled in the polls. He made the announcement on Fox News last night, just days after the third primary debate.
I'm trying to process this information, and I'm trying to do it on live television. So forgive me. You have plenty of money. You have the highest approval numbers of any candidate, and you are suspending your presidential campaign.
I think the message is clear for me right now. I am indeed suspending the campaign, but I am going to remain as committed to making sure that this country chooses the right person.
Scott says he does not plan to endorse another candidate and says he is not interested in being vice president.
Yeah, he's not interested in being vice president because, again, he's not going to get nominated to be vice president. Tim Scott, again, we talked about Mike Pence. We talked about Tim Scott. Tim Scott suspending his campaign due to low numbers. Who knew? I mean, the guy doesn't have an original thought. He repeats former Tea Party talking points. He sounded like a parrot, basically repeating everybody within all 3 Republican debates. Why are we surprised? And the thing, this was a field. This field is getting smaller and smaller by the minute. Because, like I said, North Dakota, if I can find the words. North Dakota Governor Doug Burnham, that's one. Arkansas's Governor Aja Hutchinson, that's 2, because they both failed to qualify for the third debate by by Republican nomination party rules. Mike Pence, 3. Now Senator Tim Scott, 4. Who's left? Well, Governor Chris Christie still around. Vivek Ramaswamy still around. Nikki Haley still around. So out of 4, it's like a messed up game of Survivor for political points, because out of 4 people within the span of 2 months have dropped out, you have Haley, Christie, and Ramaswamy. It's a weird name. 3 people left. And again, I ask this question: who in this bunch? Oh, and let me not forget, out of there's 4. I apologize. There's 4. You have Ramaswamy. You have Nikki Haley. You have former Governor Chris Christie, current Florida Governor Ron Dictator DeSantis. 4. The field that was once 8 strong is now down to 4. If I was a Vegas betting house right now, I would have that posted somewhere for people to gamble on. But again, it's the Republican Party. It's the Republican Party right now. This is your choices. Nikki Haley, a person who literally, an Indian woman that pretty much changed her name to sound more American to be accepted. Governor Ron DeSantis, that's practically Trump 2.0. Governor Chris Christie, who decided one day I'm going to get off the couch to be president, want to be president. And Vivek Ramaswamy, who sounds smart but really is stupid. Those are your potential candidates. Oh, and let's not forget Dorito, who may or may not be incarcerated before the actual nomination, before 2024 takes actually off. And I'm sorry, guys. This is the kind of things you simply cannot make up. That is the Republican field as you know it. And at the same time, what's the choices? Because if you guys have not noticed from last debate, Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy got into it. Governor Ron DeSantis repeated all the talking points he could. And Donald Trump is pretty much blaming everybody within his cabinet that's pretty much turning on him as we speak. Former lawyers are turning on him. Former associates are turning on him because apparently he is giving a lot. They're giving a lot of information. And let's be honest, when they offer you immunity or you turn state's witness, that means you have something on someone that gets someone behind bars. I am just saying. Just saying. But again, Tim Scott dropping out of the race is probably the funniest thing. But here's my thing before we move forward. If you decide to run for president, or if you decide that you're going to run from a different office, this is just me. You have to give up your seat. So at the end of the day, you can't go back and be a senator or a representative or mayor or governor, wherever you may have been. Once you run for president, win or lose, you cannot go back to your former seat. I think they should treat that. You know what it should be treated like? It should be treated like a heavyweight fight. If you're a lightweight moving up to the middleweight division, you have to vacate your title. In a sense, if you are a senator or representative or a mayor or a governor, whatever public office you hold, when you run for president, you have to give it up. Because it can't be this whole thing of, oh no, I failed, but at least I can go back and be a senator. No, you got to forfeit your seat. So win, lose, or draw, you're back to being a private citizen. Run for election next year. Good luck, better luck next time. And that's the one thing I wish they would do, because I think a lot of people kind of get disenfranchised from elections because the person that doesn't win still keeps their former title until it's time for them to run again. There's nothing for them. It's like, oh, well, I didn't win, but I'm still representative. I'm still a representative. I'm still a senator. I'm still, such and such. There's no skin in the game if they lose. That's the reason why I think for us for our political electoral systems, that needs to change. Aside from the fact that when the government shuts down, nobody gets paid. I think this should be the other way around. I think when the government shuts down, politicians should not get paid. All their benefits and additional privileges that they have as representative senators should be immediately cut off. But government workers that work in those buildings and other locations, their paychecks should still keep coming because they don't have anything to go off of. That should change. But again, whole nother story with that. But speaking of Nikki Haley, because apparently she's everywhere, she has basically called for name verification on social media. Now, this is a big thing with Republicans because they believe that TikTok and its Chinese counterparts are basically selling American information, and therefore they think TikTok is an evil system. They think TikTok should be banned, forgetting the fact that Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else collects our information, but they don't have a problem with it. Nikki Haley is sitting there saying, well, you know what? There needs to be name verification on social media. And I'm thinking to myself, no, as much as we love anonymous people, it needs to remain anonymous. Because again, there's a double-edged sword to that. Because I think that's infringing on freedom of speech. It is. Because everybody, and I say this again because this needs to be said. Freedom of speech allows you to say anything that you want to say. It does not absolve you of the consequence that follows. So for instance, if a guy like me in downtown Nashville decide to walk around and say, all white people ain't shit, what happens next is a consequence. Same in the same sense that if a white person decided to walk to an HBCU and say all N-words ain't shit, consequences will follow. Again, the right to say something will always be protected. The right to protect your ass from getting whooped from what you said is not protected. That's the difference. And the fact that Nikki Haley wants to make everybody know on social media, that to me is a red flag because you're infringing on freedom of speech. Some people just want to say something and they have the right to be anonymous. They really do. You have the right to be anonymous on social media. Republicans are trying to make sure that you don't, out of fear that the Chinese are trying to steal your information. Out of the same fear that Republicans are going to sit there and say that a Democrat is coming for your guns. And I keep saying this all the time. That is probably one of the most brandished lies you can tell about the government caring about your AR-15 that you probably paid for too much at Bass Pro Shops. The government has access to way better stuff. They can care less about your AR-15. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of the government, guys, again, we had another potential shutdown that somehow got averted by another stopgap measure. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
The bill is passed.
This morning, Congress is one step closer to avoiding a government shutdown, with the House passing a short-term funding bill with bipartisan support and days to spare before the deadline.
We just got to get the job done.
The bill, which now heads to the Senate, would keep the government funded through early next year. It also frees up lawmakers to leave town for Thanksgiving later this week, a badly needed break as tensions among lawmakers reached a boiling point on Tuesday.
It shocked me more than anything else.
Tennessee Republican Tim Burchett, who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy last month, claiming the former speaker shoved him in a basement hallway while he was being interviewed.
Kevin McCarthy walked by and he elbowed me in the kidneys as he walked by. Oh, it was 100% on purpose, man. What a chance. It's 435 members of Congress paid up as voters against him.
McCarthy calling any physical contact between the two men purely accidental.
If I kidney punch him, he'd be on the ground. So come on.
Hearings growing heated too, including a showdown in the Senate. When previous social media taunting between Teamsters president Sean O'Brien and Oklahoma senator and former MMA fighter Markwayne Mullen nearly turned a health committee hearing into a cage match.
Sir, this is a time, this is a place. You want to run your mouth? We can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your
All right.
solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay. Sit down, please.
Unlikely referee 82-year-old Bernie Sanders intervening. Senator Mullen unapologetic afterwards.
You don't do that in Oklahoma. You don't run your mouth unless you're going to answer the call.
But with the government funding bill through one chamber and on a glide path in the other, lawmakers are eyeing a long Thanksgiving break, being away from one another, something they will likely all be thankful for.
There are dumb days on Capitol Hill, and there are dumber days on Capitol Hill, and this is one of the dumbest I've seen in quite a long time.
Well, that was well said. Okay, so let's talk.
Let's get ready to rumble. Who knew Bernie Sanders would be a UFC referee? That was not on my bingo card of 2023. Why are we surprised? I mean, the whole thing of, man, it's like, you gonna do something? I would love to do it. Well, then stand up then. Oh, you stand your butt up. I kind of felt like somebody was gonna throw a hip standing up, honestly. But that's Congress. This, this is the Congress that got voted in. That we have went from a stopgap measure, which again, kicking the can down the road again, to where they was really about to fight. And again, this is the 118th Congress, ladies and gentlemen, with Bernie Sanders. I'm surprised Bernie Sanders didn't. You ready? You ready? Let's get it on. I'm surprised it didn't happen. I'm really surprised Bernie Sanders actually was the voice of reason in there, to where they were just like, "Oh, we gonna fight today." I personally would have paid. I mean, C-SPAN's ratings would have went through the roof on that one. That's just me. But again, the stopgap measure was put in place. If the Senate votes on it, which more than likely they will, they avert another government shutdown, but you kick the can down the road. This is the same thing we've been saying on this podcast now going on the last 3 years. That whenever it comes to averting a government shutdown, what usually happens is Republicans want cuts mostly to everything except that doesn't help corporations and rich people. Democrats want to push everything through because they know it's necessary. It's the same back and forth because now Republicans control the House, Democrats control the Senate. So you have a deadlock session until either Democrats cave or Republicans cave. But either way, they'll pretty much blame each other when election year comes up. But I would think more be on the Republican side, because the Republicans are like, well, we get in, we're going to stop the controlling, we're going to stop the frivolous spending, we're going to get bills back on there, we're going to do the investigations. Well, you did 1 out of 3. I mean, you really didn't push anything through that helped the American people. You really kind of shot down the tax bill that actually gave the IRS $80 billion because the IRS is woefully underfunded and undermanned. But they did a campaign talking about, well, when the IRS gets more people, they're going to come after you and they're going to come to your taxes. No. Have you seen the IRS? Have you ever done a tax refund to the IRS? I have seen paint dry out the back of a battleship faster than getting your refund sometimes. Again, services like the United States Postal Service, the Internal Revenue Service, and other government entities are underfunded and undermanned. At least in this point, because with the IRS collecting revenue in order for the government to work would be one of the more priorities. But again, Republicans aren't hearing that because Republicans would rather starve and deny and destroy something so bad that privatization is the only answer. They did that with education. They're trying to do that now. They did that with the U.S. Postal Service. They are now trying to do that with the IRS. They actually want to abolish the IRS because there's this crazy notion about taxes, unfair taxation without representation. Yes, I cannot tell you how many times that has been argued. And yes, it is stupid. But again, I digress. It's the Congress that a lot of people voted in for, which I stress all the time. Please be aware of the next election, and then the midterms after that, especially not only the federal but the local, because all this is one big ass chain reaction. We want to stop it. We have to trust in the system. Vote people in that are actually going to do what is actually in our best interest. But again, I digress. Moving right along, guys. The Supreme Court apparently got nagged up by us because, of course, if you guys are watching this podcast or watching the news, those on the Supreme Court, a few, were under investigation, specifically Clarence Thomas for, riding with a billionaire who's also a Republican donor, houses that were purchased, private tuition that was paid on his behalf. But oh no, there's no way that America's blackest Uncle Tom could be persuaded to vote against American interests. They're just good friends, right? Who doesn't have billionaire donor friends that just buy gifts for you or take you out on trips or take you out to their private resorts and things of that nature? We all got friends like that, right? Right. I didn't think so. Well, anyway, with the Supreme Court, guys, they did actually come up with a new code of ethics that they created.
New ethics rules for the nation's highest court, a formal code of conduct now in place after a steady drip of stories on some of the justices' undisclosed trips, private jet rides, and other perks. This 14-page document, signed by all 9 justices, now laying out how they should avoid the appearance of impropriety, when to recuse from a case, and reaffirming the existing rules around gifts, a move some members of the court had previewed was on the way.
What we could do is just adapt the code of conduct that the other court systems have. I think it would be a good thing for the court to do that.
Public pressure to do something has been mounting in recent months after reporting about Justice Clarence Thomas in particular, and years' worth of unreported luxury vacations paid for by a top conservative megadonor, something Thomas said he believed he didn't need to report at the time, but has more recently updated his disclosure forms.
I think it's clear that every member of the court has run into problems in the last few years. This is not just a problem that is besetting conservatives.
This new ethics code, experts point out, still leaving much up to the justice's own discretion, and doesn't answer what happens if someone breaks the rules.
It remains to be seen whether they're going to take this seriously or whether they're just doing this to get everybody off their backs. But I think this is a really good first step.
But not enough, says a top Senate Democrat on Capitol Hill, still pushing for legislative reforms.
It may fall short of the ethical standards which other federal judges are held to, and that's unacceptable. And if it falls short, the American people will ultimately have the last word, and the integrity of the court is at issue.
Well, as the justices surely know, the question is how do you enforce something like this?
Well, so here's the thing. There is no complaint department for the Supreme Court. They are the highest court. And the question is, what's the remedy? If one of them is accused in another story of breaking this ethics code, what then? Who's going to enforce it? That is completely left unsaid in this document. However, as you heard from Professor Gay there, he thinks this is a good first step. And the ethics experts say this is part of culture change. You actually have to write it down. That's the important part here, even if it's not going to be the be-all, end-all.
Okay, so the Supreme Court decides to say, hey guys, we have a new code of conduct. Trust us. Trust us? That's what, here's the thing, and I've been saying this. Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, obviously. Their landmark cases and decisions that follow have shaped America's history moving forward, whether it was good or bad. Most recently bad, considering the fact they shot down Roe versus Wade, gutted part of the affirmative action for colleges, and again, still they want to review other landmark cases. I keep saying this, guys, that when you're the highest court in the land, that you do have to have some checks and balances. That alone should have been, hey guys, we're going to have a code of conduct that's going to be seen by an internal group of justices along with the Attorney General. That was right. That should have been right there. We'll give you a whole set of rules that you have to follow. Because for those that work in companies, you've probably seen, especially now that we're around the holidays, your company, specifically HR, has probably sit there and sit out this list of holiday gifts. Oh, we have to be compliant and ethical about the holiday gifts we receive, guys. Nothing above $100, and if it's above $100, please check with your office. Please check with your ethical office and your ethical officer just to make sure that the gift is all above board. We've all seen those emails. Yet the Supreme Court doesn't have that, and it's amazing to me that when you're in the highest court in the land, at the same time, you are human. That's the thing about it. The Supreme Court, all those 9 judges, human, not infallible, which means that some way, some point, they can be influenced. They can make a mistake. They can be persuaded. And because we're speaking the fact of they and can in the same sentence, why is there not a check and balance against the Supreme Court? We have a check and balance against the president. We have a check and balance against the House. We have a check and balance against the Senate. We have checks and balances against the lower courts and the Ninth Circuit Appeal courts. We have checks and balances in every area. The Supreme Court is the only office in the United States that does not have to answer to anyone. Think about that. The only way, and again, Supreme Court justice is a lifetime appointment. The only way a Supreme Court justice can be removed is by congressional vote or a heinous crime. Those are the only two ways a Supreme Court justice can be removed. Aside from that, you are on the bench for life. Even more so, there is no one you have to answer to. This, I don't see, and guys, please tell me in the comments what you think. I don't see how this ethical code that they have is more lip service than actual doing. Because if it does not put a Supreme Court justice on notice about their actions and who they hang out with and who they represent, they just pretty much sit there and says, "Oh, we can still continue what we can still continue to do what we want." Oh, but you guys have an ethical code out there now, so you know we're above board. Your ethical code is bullshit. It has no consequences. It has no threats of compliance. It doesn't have anything out there except that, oh, trust us. We're Supreme Court justices. No, you're human and you're not infallible. You can make mistakes. You can be persuaded. You can be bought. But having a rule out there that checks you if you cross that line is a surefire guarantee that less of you will make that mistake. But hey, I digress. Moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover this story as well because, again, with the Israel-Hamas war going on, people are always worried about, will it spill over to our areas? And again, if you've been watching us for the last couple of weeks, we've covered stories, even a protest that's currently going on right now in California about protesting for a ceasefire, which, again, I have to stress this very heavily because a lot of people, when they hear Israel and Hamas is basically the creation of what Israel did to Palestinians. What people are protesting, and I don't mean to get loud, but I have to say this very eloquently. People are protesting Palestinians getting killed by Israelis. They're not talking about Hamas. They are saying Palestinians because people in hospitals, Palestinians in hospitals are getting killed, villages killed. These are innocents, not ones fighting against Israelis. That's what everybody's protesting. I think I got to clear that up. At the same time, Netanyahu is not listening to a ceasefire. He can care less because, unfortunately, he's still backed by the U.S. With that being said, like I said, with all that going on, don't think, and I said before about misinformation, misinformation does a lot more damage than actual truth does. Because we talked about last week a woman who thought the school or facility, she thought it was a school for training terrorists, and she takes it upon herself to use her car as a weapon and ram said school. Again, we got another one. New Jersey man pleads guilty to sending manifesto threatening to attack a synagogue. Yes, this man sent a manifesto to that particular location. He was found guilty because he basically, and here's the messed up part about the guilty plea. Outside the guilty plea, he literally got 15 months in prison, followed by 3 years supervised release. So let me get this straight. This man sends out a manifesto saying that his hatred of Jews, keep in mind, hatred of Jews in this manifesto that he sent out and said, because of them, this place must be destroyed. That man got 15 months in prison and 3 years supervised release. How? I say again, how? Because the thing about it is, these are folks that get radicalized and want to go after Jewish people, and they will go to extremes. But I wonder, because here's the thing about those people. Those people not only look at misinformation, they go to some source of information, like Fox News. Now, bear with me, guys. I want to play this clip from Fox News, but there is a reason why I'm pointing this out. Because current local douchebag, well, two local douchebags, Greg Gottlieb, Jesse Waters, right? Watch this clip, and then you'll wonder why misinformation is so easy to accept.
See, there's another reason I think that they're defending these people is that they got exposed. They're being filmed. So now if they could get away with it, it wouldn't make a big deal. But now the media has to defend them because they could get in trouble.
I want to say something about Arab Americans and about the Muslim world. I'm not going to hold your hand, even though I should, Dana. We, when I say we, I mean the West and Western technology have created the Middle East. We made them rich. We got that oil out of the ground. Our military protects all of these oil shipments flying around the world, making them rich. We fund their military. We respect their kings. We kill their terrorists. Okay? But we've had it. We've had it with them. Obama, Trump, now Biden have tried to get the heck out of that stupid desert. Just as we're about to get out, because we have this great balance of power we're arranging, these crazy Muslim fanatics come in and massacre over 1,000 of our allies and hold Jewish people hostage, hold Americans hostage. And so if you're an Arab American in this country and you rip down posters of Jewish hostages, of American hostages, no. No, no, no. Someone is going to get punched in the face. When you rip down posters of hostages like that, this is absolutely not. And the New York Times, the second sentence, Greg, that I thought was even worse, whose suffering should command public attention and sympathy? So what they've done is they've now made suffering a commodity. They'll put a price tag on emotional suffering. You know, is it the Jews? Is it black teens, the Native Americans, the Palestinians? You know, who suffered the most? And he who suffered the most is allowed, as you say, a free punch. And so now they've justified violence to avenge suffering. And so now people are above the law, people are below the law, and that's making everybody crazy.
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted. Thanks, Osmond. Let me try it again. So again, guys, let me apologize. Again, for the 3 minutes of Fox News, I apologize for that, but I had to prove a point because that's radicalization. That is. It is radicalization on so many levels. And those of a certain variety pick it up. That's not white people. There are some black people and other minorities that pick this up. And I didn't believe it at first until I heard some folks turn around and accept it. Oh, well, we just hate. I was like, it is amazing from a news station that calls itself a news station. The first thing they sit there and say is, I just have no love for Muslims. Really? And at the same time, you go, well, who suffered more? I mean, you would think as a conscientious person, who suffered more? Muslims, black teens, Arabs? Who's the one that gets a free punch? Are you effing kidding? At the same time, it's accepted. I guarantee that clip I played has already been accepted by others, will probably be sliced and diced by those, the Republican variety, because, oh yeah, those Officer Tates, those Liberty Twins, take your pick. They all do it. Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, they all do it. They all recycle that same area of radicalization simply for profit. At the same time, the underlying consequence of this is that you create homegrown terrorists. The same thing that they accuse other countries of Fox News does on a daily basis. But we should not be surprised because, again, the only thing about the war with Israel right now, Israel only does this because they have the U.S.'s backing. Imagine if the U.S. decided to pull out. Netanyahu would be singing a way different tune. That's all I'm saying. But then again, he is a U.S. welfare queen. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this because, again, we did cover the UAW strike and that it is officially over. The tentative agreement was accepted. The United Auto Workers Union did get a lot of things handed to them and then some. But I've always said this about car owners. This is why I steer clear of Fox. Don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. But this is why I say, guys, whenever you see companies make deals with unions, they usually have to do something. They either try to increase prices or pass off their new increased cost to customers. Stellantis, one of the big three, decided to offer a buyout to half the salaried U.S. staff. So what does that mean? That basically means that for those that work at Stellantis, 10 or plus years more, we're getting buyouts. Less than 10 years, we're probably getting a full year's salary, and some are just getting up to 3 months of pay, 3 months of their pay, if they accept it. This is Stellantis' response to the fact of, oh, I guess we now have to pay our workers. But in order we have to pay our workers and still keep our insane amount of profit, we have to turn around and we have to cut our staff. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen businessmen go, well, that's just a business decision. Well, tell that to the workers that are just now laid off. This is why the working environment in America has changed a lot. You have a lot of people out there that were like, used to give 2-week notices. Now it's like, oh yeah, I put in my 2-week notice, but I put it in 11 days ago. Peace. Or just put on the spot, or just find another job. And it's always those in the employment side. Nobody wants to work. Look what you're paying. If you're paying them something that they cannot survive off of, that job is going to be empty. If it's a good high-paying job, you can't keep enough applications forward. At the same time, Stellantis is like, oh, we not pay these auto workers. We have to cut somewhere. They do business 101. Whenever you have to trim the fat, you go for the low-hanging fruit. Because Lord knows they'll never cut executives. They'll never cut shareholders. They'll never actually consider taking a hit in profit. But they'll always consider employees because that's the mindset of business in America. That you feel like employees are a dime a dozen, but profit is 1 in a million. And that screams volumes about the maker of Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge. It really does. But speaking of the economy and car loans, people are still wondering, like, if you think it's still a good time to buy a car, watch this first.
Report out today showed prices up 3.2% compared to a year ago, lower than expected and a potential good sign for the economy. But there's been a worrying economic sign recently. Americans are falling behind on their car loans at the highest rate in nearly 3 decades. We have a look at the interest rates, car prices, and economic realities driving the trend by the numbers. More than 6% of subprime car borrowers are at least 60 days past due on their loan payments. That's the highest delinquency rate on record in data going back to 1994, according to Fitch Ratings. Several factors are behind the spike. Interest rates average about 5.07% for a new car and 7.09% for a used one. That's according to Bankrate. And for those with the worst credit, rates are more than 14% for new and 21% for used. Add to that the $49,388 price tag on the average new car and the fact that a used car costs nearly $20,000. Then there's the nearly 27 million student loan borrowers who had to resume payments this fall, further squeezing their budgets. It all adds up to a forecast for 1.5 million cars to be repossessed this year. That's a 20% increase from last year. Experts say while the economy may be sending mixed signals about the health of consumer spending, the car loan numbers are a clear indication of distress.
Distress? That is Mayday. Guys, like I said before, I'm a car guy, okay? Love cars. But financing right now, because keep in mind, the Fed is thinking of increasing rates again. They've already increased it 5 times this year. For all those that don't know, once the rates increases, banks tighten up. Less lending is done, less loans are done. If they do consider financing a home or a car, they are basically going to hedge their bets so much that the buyer may think twice. And you got to think about what we just saw here. 14% on new cars. 21%. That's on the bad. Here's the thing. That's on the bad side. Now, I'm not knocking anybody with bad credit, but a 21% APR on a used car is freaking ridiculous. And I understand situations. I understand do what you got to do. But 21% is the rate on a used car? Used. That means that you can be paying anywhere literally from $500 to almost $2,000 more versus the value of the car that depreciates the moment you leave the lot. And yet these car lots, if you haven't noticed in your area, still full. Dealerships are having a hard time trying to sell and move cars. Why? Nobody can afford them. Could you really afford, and I say this all the time, could you really afford a car payment of $500 and up? Let's just say $500 and up. Could you really afford that car payment? Could you afford $600, $700, $800? I know there's some out there that are actually well over $1,000. Well over $1,000 a month. And that's not even going toward the principal. That's just the interest. Again, I point this out. There is a reason why Americans are struggling. Everything is going up but the income. And yet at the same time, we need vehicles. We need vehicles, especially to get around, to go to work, if you have families, to get them from point A to point B. It's just the way of life. But it is amazing to me the level of how in the world can anybody fathom paying 14% on a new car, much less 21% on a new car. And again, student loan payments resuming. It's like, I'm trying to figure this out because I'm not trying to be mad at Biden, but I can't help but go right back to him and said, you're asking how much in $1 billion to Ukraine and Israel? How much you asking? Billions? The American people could use some of that too, sir. But then again, this is the reason why I keep saying not to go off on a tangent. This is the reason why sometimes I wish I could ask presidential candidate questions, because sometimes I think they get softball questions. I really think they do. Because Biden and others do kind of dance around the fact that you've helped out foreign countries with $1 billion packages, but the American people are still suffering. What do you plan to do about that? And hold their feet to a fire. Hold them into there and say, you wanted to pay off $20,000 student loan debt. Sir, it's not enough. You wanted to raise the minimum wage. You talked about that once and never again. You talked about codifying Roe versus Wade to protect women's abortion rights, and you said it's up to the states. Exactly why do we need you as president? And again, this is the things I would ask because the American people want to know. American people want to get a home, but homes are too high to buy. Americans want to get a car. Cars are too much. Americans can barely buy food, and yet at the same time, they're trying to tell us the economy is improving. Yeah, I don't think so. Even more so as we're going to the next story, guys. It goes right back into schools. Remember I talked about public education is getting attacked. Less funding is being cut. Schools have to figure out how to retain teachers. Teachers are getting fed up with the fact that kids can beat on them, but yet they can't touch them. So they move on to greener pastures. Again, I just want to show the struggles of one school area in Texas and what they're doing. And again, this is the reason why I keep on saying this all the time. Pay the teachers.
All across the network by highlighting the contributions of educators and students across the country while taking a closer look at the future of education in America. And tonight, ABC's Maria Villarreal reports from Texas on the nationwide teacher shortage since the start of the pandemic and the efforts of one school district to recruit and retain teachers. It's part of our series, The American Classroom.
Good morning, everybody. Hi. Good morning. right, friends, are you ready?
Caitlin Ruiz is no stranger to Tosh Elementary School in Mesquite, Texas, a suburb just outside Dallas.
It's super personal and super special to me because, I mean, I did walk these halls at one point.
Bravery? Good. You think he's brave? I think so too. I would be super brave to go against her, right?
When this opportunity presented to get hired here, I mean, I was ecstatic and I felt like God put me here for a reason.
It's a highlighted word because it's what? A vocabulary word. Good.
A former student here, Ruiz is now in her first year teaching fourth grade after serving as a kindergarten paraprofessional or teaching assistant since 2021, the middle of the pandemic.
I've never had a backup plan. Teaching is just the goal for me. Teaching has just always been what I've wanted to do. It's a true passion.
Okay, Christian, what you got?
Across town, Jeffrey Blackwell has brought the courtroom to his classroom, literally.
How many other people go online regularly to read their news?
Blackwell leads his high school speech, debate, and academic decathlon classes with a replica courtroom bench at the head of the class. Blackwell is a former attorney who left the courtroom 20 years ago to start teaching at his alma mater, Poteet High School.
I feel like when I'm watching you, you seem so engaged. Like this is your happy place.
Oh, for sure. It's always been that way for school to me. From when I was a kid all the way to now, you know, in an environment in which you get to learn and play with thought, play with ideas and perspectives, and, you know, dealing with kids that have such great minds and present things from perspectives I'm not even thinking about. So we're all learning together, and that's what makes it so special. It can be about anything you want. It just needs to be two-sided.
As the son and grandson of teachers, the 47-year-old can't see himself anywhere else.
There's always going to be compelling arguments not to be a teacher in terms of the marketplace, you know, dealing with certain issues that's just a part of the profession. But being a teacher, it's a calling. That's what teaching is. That's who we are.
Ruiz and Blackwell are just two of the thousands of teachers in the Mesquite Independent School District, which serves more than 38,000 students in 51 schools. And like school systems across the country, Mesquite faced unprecedented challenges in 2020.
All schools in the state of Texas shall be temporarily closed.
Dr. Angel Rivera, now the district superintendent, was the assistant back in 2020 as the COVID crisis began to unfold.
We had to have teachers work on two platforms, the face-to-face, while simultaneously doing a virtual piece. And so pretty much it doubled up their work. It probably expedited people leaving the profession. If the teachers were stressed before, they probably doubled the level of stress at that particular time.
Initially, my concern, especially with older kids, is are they going to show up online? Or is it going to be me talking to an empty computer screen? They wanted to be there. That moment where they're in the classroom, even if that classroom is virtual, was a sense of normalcy for them because everything else was unnormal.
As the pandemic dragged on, school staffing shortages swept the nation. Around 300,000 public school teachers and other staff members left the field as the pandemic took hold, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But COVID merely put a microscope on issues teachers and school staff had been dealing with for years.
I hear that teachers aren't being as supported when it comes to behavior in the classroom. A lot of them are leaving because of the pay. They just say it's very hard to live on teacher salary. Personally, I'm doing okay, but I have great support at home with a husband. And if you don't have a family, it could be kind of difficult to live on your own.
Administrators were tasked with figuring out how to fill those vacancies.
When you're looking at the fact that teachers are saying we're not getting paid enough, we're not supported when it comes to behavioral issues, I'm going to leave. How do you come into that? It seems like some pretty big challenges.
It was very, very obvious that we had to establish prestige in a teaching position. And it was very obvious that we had to prioritize teaching positions, and we did just that.
So Dr. Rivera made more funding his top priority. A local tax measure he presented to voters narrowly passed a year ago, leading to $16 million in new revenue annually for the district. critical funding used in part to boost teachers' salaries.
How did you explain to them that it's not about like, oh, we would like the money? It's more like, no, we need this money.
I said, this money will be paying on safety and security, teacher compensation along with paraprofessionals, and then programming for kids. Those were my 3 points. I kept it to 3. I went around, and when they did pass it, I said, this is what we're going to do.
In addition, the district implemented new programs like PACE, which helps teaching assistants pay for school as they fill vacancies while working towards becoming fully certified teachers.
Y'all are overachievers.
Ruiz is part of the PACE program.
It's just a very special program for parents because so many of us want to go into teaching. We just didn't have the means to get there. And so this program truly helped us get our foot in the door. It's good. I've always wanted to be in education. I love kids. I have a passion for them.
How many of y'all get your news primarily from social media?
For veteran staffers like Blackwell, even before the pandemic, the district's Excellence in Teaching Incentive Program gave a financial boost to stay in the classroom.
They were trying to figure out a way that the district can grow better teachers, and that takes time, and it takes additional instruction and training. If you go through this 2-year program, then there's going to be a pay increase, a stipend that's attached to that. And if you continue on to get your master's in certain areas, we're going to give you more money. That time and that commitment that the teachers are making are going to be rewarded by increased salary.
As the pandemic waned, the district says it was able to cut teacher vacancies from 145 at the start of last school year to just 16 this year. Superintendent Rivera is also working to introduce AI technology that he hopes will help his staff keep up with the needs of their students.
I will say, Angel, are you interested in this? Are you interested in that? Where when I was in school, I was only exposed to the things the teachers would tell me about, which back then there wasn't a lot.
It's about heroes.
But now we keep talking about the jobs and fields that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, let's stop preparing kids for a world that doesn't exist when they graduate college, and let's let them explore. I'm a believer that this AI system could actually help students discover something within themselves that they didn't even know.
The impact of these teaching programs felt by teachers and students alike.
The teachers, they're not just your teachers and your mentors, they're your friends. You can tell that a lot of the teachers here have a passion for what they do.
They're all our kids. And I think that passion, that sense of purpose, they see it in our eyes and our actions. And so they don't necessarily question that.
But there's more to be done as educators look to reinvigorate the industry.
We want it to be better, and we're striving. We've dedicated our lives to it.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said before, I have actually a very soft spot for educators. I really do. They don't get enough credit for honestly one of the hardest and most rewarding professions that we do have in this country, teaching kids, because they got it rough. What'd you say? Time to come clean that we're in a recession. We are. I won't even say, you know what? I won't say recession. I think it's time we need to admit that the income of this country needs to rise. I think we need to admit that minimum wage needs to increase by fourfold. Because keep in mind, we're still, I hate to say it, guys, we're still at $7.26. I believe that's the minimum wage. I believe it's minimum wage, $7.26. Still, in 2023, we're under $10. And don't get me wrong, there are certain cities and states that do have minimum wage at $10 or $15 an hour, but that's just the city or state it's located in. It's not federal. If we're really being honest, the minimum wage, if it really follows the current trend right now, productivity and income in the U.S., minimum wage would probably be somewhere around no, that's wrong. Minimum wage would probably be somewhere around $28 to $34 an hour. Somewhere in that range is where it would be, $28, $34 an hour. And I think, people really do gawk at that. They say, oh, so minimum wage should be $20 an hour? Yes. Because $15 an hour doesn't get you an apartment anywhere. Anything lower than that is ridiculous. But you can't get an apartment anywhere else. That's why the minimum wage needs to go up. Why does it need to go up? Because if you force the minimum wage to go up to at least $28 an hour, you will force every menial job out there to raise its wages, because right now they are loving the fact that the minimum wage is still $7.26 an hour. Jobs out there are loving that fact versus other jobs out there, because a lot of people sit there and say, well, a person at McDonald's flipping burgers can make $20 an hour if their only job. People kill me with that. Well, nobody flipping burgers should make $20 an hour. Okay. How do you feel about janitors? Do you believe janitors who clean up America's shit? I don't mean to say it that way, but that's the only way I can say it. Janitorial people that work in that industry, do you not think that they should not get paid more? I mean, they clean toilets of the American public. I don't know about y'all, but I'm pretty sure you've been in a public toilet that looks like it was just flat out disrespected by somebody who had to worry about cleaning that up, but didn't take into a fact that, hey, how you destroyed or made a mockery or how you treated that toilet in there, you don't think for 1 second that one individual has to go in there to that crime scene that you left and have to clean that up? Of course they should be paid more. The same people that prepare your food, of course they should be paid more. The same people that are cleaning up buildings, I mean, not just cleaning buildings, highways, things of that nature. Those that work in a service or restaurant, the service industry, of course they should be paid more. It is beyond the pale that no job should be seen as higher or less important, because every job is vital. If you can't hire somebody to clean up your toilets, guess what? Your toilet's going to be still shitty and people are not going to go in there, and that eventually becomes a health hazard. What I'm getting at is, guys, the same way with teachers. Now, I get that district in Texas found a nice way to turn around and literally make it work. They tried to make it work. They gave incentive. They gave incentive for teachers to stay. Do I think that's right? I mean, not really, because the problem to all of this is simple. You want to get the economy back on track, raise people's wages, pay people, because we saw what happened when those stimulus checks went out, albeit small as shit, may have helped get some people over, may have solved a bill or two, but we saw a small bump. We saw people spending money because now they had it. We saw people buying things, even some luxury items. It's not just going to your local grocery store, paying $300 and your cart's not even a quarter full. The problem is the same it's always been. You have to pay people. It's the reason why we've had strikes. It's the reason why the United Auto Workers strike. It's the reason why we have seen more strikes in this year than the last 5 years combined. Keep in mind, guys, we've had multiple strikes. We've had John Deere, we've had Kellogg's, we've had the UAW, we had teachers unions, we had nurses, we had nurses unions, we had other factories that were joining. Even Amazon. Amazon literally has one location right now that is unionized, and they're still trying to get other areas to unionize. And at the same time, they had strikes. And I keep saying this before we move on to the next thing. It is going to become a thing about strikes. And here's the one thing I would say for all those: if you have a union in your area, please join it. And if you don't have one, think of starting one. Never bargain with corporations by yourself. You will not, I'm sorry, I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Never bargain with corporations by yourself. Corporations that ever stand and tell you, we're like a family. At that point, everything they say after that is bullshit. Everything they say that is bullshit, highly suspect, and y'all should literally unionize. Because, again, corporations, and I say this all the time, corporations have no problem cutting people when it's necessary. Corporations have no problem laying you off when it's necessary. Corporations have no problem changing your pay when it's necessary for them. You need to have protections in place that protect your job, protect your pay, protect your way of life, and unions can do that. Because trust me, teachers, along a long list of other people, in necessity jobs. I call them. I hate the word essential. I hate the term essential worker because everybody leaned on that. We love our essential workers. Our essential workers are the real heroes, but you didn't pay them. You had nurses, doctors on the front lines during the beginning of COVID, and they did not get paid any more than what they were getting. So because of burnout, because of potential taking the virus home to loved ones, some of them quit. But you know what those hospitals did? Hired traveling nurses. What do traveling nurses make? A nice, pretty nice bag. I can't knock travel nurses. Travel nurses, if you're out there, we love you. Out there again, nothing but love. But that was hospitals' answers to those. Instead of paying them, instead of giving them time, you burned out nurses and tried to treat like a humongous meat grinder only to keep your profits going. So again, the way this can all be summed up, people, pay people. Watch how quickly the economy turns around. That's all I'm saying. What do you say? No empathy in business. There isn't. It's amazing when they try to make business a person. There's no empathy in business, but you're 100% right. But our last story, guys. Again, I hate to say this because I know Thanksgiving's a week off, but instead of the holiday season, it's robbing season. It really is. And in my home state of Tennessee, we got a city named Memphis to where folks have lost their doggone minds. Amazon drivers are getting robbed. FedEx truckers are getting robbed on the interstate. Folks are starting to become porch pirates. Why? Because we're, holiday season. You want to start thinking about Christmas, buying gifts for your loved ones. So you want to, take advantage of Black Friday or Cyber Monday, even though those are the same deals you get on New Year's Eve. But the hotel shopping season makes you think that if you don't get this by Christmas, you ain't shit. That being said, guys, again, there is a particular story out there that a sheriff that is dealing with a situation of folks coming in and robbing. Instead of blaming the robbers, he blames the companies.
Many of you watching have seen this, and here in California, we're seeing a 13% uptick in organized retail theft since 2019. And now, a local sheriff is criticizing big retailers for the policies that he says protects their bottom lines at the expense of consumers. Sheriff Jim Cooper of Sacramento County is accusing Target and Walgreens of hindering his department's efforts to combat retail theft and making it impossible to carry out sting operations. In a post on X directed at Target, the sheriff said, quote, somehow locking up deodorant and raising prices on everyday items we need to survive is their best answer. Well, his complaints come as many retailers are, in fact, locking up their merchandise behind glass to prevent theft and even closing stores because of safety concerns. ABC News reached out to Target about this story, and the company was not willing to comment. Also, a spokesperson for Walgreens told ABC News affiliate KXTV that they frequently work with law enforcement in California to combat theft. Now, Sheriff Jim Cooper is joining us now. And Sheriff, first, I'll let you respond to that comment from Walgreens that they say they do work with you to combat retail theft. What's your response to that?
It's funny. Actually, the article came out. They reached out to us. And they want to work together now. So kind of ironic.
Oh, so now they're willing to. Were they before?
No. They turned their offers down. And this is really not happening at the local level as far as the loss prevention goes. It's at the corporate level. That's a big issue. Their shareholders or stockholders. That's who's driving this narrative.
And so in your view, what is, though, so that's driving the narrative. What is driving the rise in shoplifting and these flash mob style robberies that we're seeing? I mean, not only in California, but it is bad here.
I think zero accountability. They know no one's going to get in trouble. Nothing's going to happen to them. And the retailers have fueled this. They had multiple chances to change laws through legislation, and the retailers did nothing, the big box retailers. So basically, they've been complicit in this whole issue.
Now, you say that your department tried to respond to numerous calls from from employees, actually, at a Target and a Walgreens, but then you were blocked by the corporate office. So what exactly happened?
So we had operations set up. Obviously, those local employees knew who the frequent flyers were or shoplifters were, set up an operation to come out, arrest them, and deal with them. So prior to us coming out and getting set up, a call from corporate says, hey, you can't work with local law enforcement. So 2 operations, one with Target and one with Walgreens, were both canceled, unfortunately.
Wow. And in your post on X, you also said that the California Retail Association has essentially sat on their hands on this issue. The president there pushed back, and they also told our affiliate KXTV that they helped secure almost $300 million in state funding to fight retail theft, and that includes millions of dollars there in Sacramento. Why isn't that enough?
Let me tell you this. We got $9 million in funding, which is great. We're going to use it. It's going to help us. The bottom line, the law is still the law. Think about this. As long as you shoplift less than $950, say $949, the most you will get is citation. You're not going to jail, and you can do that 20 or 30 times a day. It's a law that needs to be fixed and addressed. The money's great, but still the law's a law, and the most I can do is cite them. That does not work. It doesn't matter if you're stealing a high-end designer purse or stealing, makeup products. You need to be held accountable, and that's really the big issue. And the retailers put profits before this. Think about this. We face record prices right now. Everything's expensive. All that loss is being passed on to you and I, the consumer.
And when you talk about those big companies, that's one thing. What about these small mom and pop stores that don't have that kind of backing?
Exactly. That's who's dying on the line. The big box retailers, they can deal with it. But small mom and pop stores, they can't afford it. They've gone out of business. That's who's hurting the most. And we've done nothing to help them. But really, it's in the hands of the biggest box retailers. They have the money to drive it. But like I said, they're more worried about appearances than doing what's right.
The big box retailers and the lawmakers certainly have some answers here. All right. Sheriff Jim Cooper.
So what's crazy is he does have a lot of great points. Number one, he talked about the law. For all those that don't know, there was a law in California where as long as the theft is below a certain amount, it's considered a misdemeanor. All you do is do a citation, like the sheriff said. A lot of people have been taking advantage of that. And again, I don't condone larceny. I don't condone stealing. I don't condone showing your ass, acting a fool, going into these stores and robbing them for the simple fact that nobody's going to stop you. Retailers, people that work in retail, I say this all the time. Don't stop anyone that decides to rob the place. Especially because, again, I can't tell you the fact that some people are crazy enough to have guns on them. Some people are desperate enough to go in here and steal shit and then try to go out the door. Best thing you do is let them go. Because for what you're getting paid ain't gonna be enough. You're not paid to be a retail person and a security guard. And if the security guard lets them through, then what you gonna do? At the same time, he's right. A lot of these local law enforcement areas, I know in my city of Nashville, a lot of these local law enforcement are trying to work with these stores and say, hey, we want to work with you guys on how to combat shoplifting and stealing and things of that nature. And like you said, a lot of the big box ones, Target and Walgreens, don't want to do that. Now, it could be argued that Target and Walgreens and maybe Walmart in some areas, in some states, are accepting state funding because, let's be honest, if they took tax dollars to get there, then all they're doing is sitting on them until they realize, oh, we can just pack up and go somewhere else, which is what a lot of them did. I mean, again, if you have TikTok or social media, look up areas like my personal favorite, look up Walmart in Memphis, where a Walmart in Memphis was raided. I mean, raided. And now Walmart, along with FedEx, are sitting there saying, well, FedEx has a major hub in Memphis, Tennessee, by the way. They're not leaving because FedEx is enjoying Tennessee state-funded dollars. But Walmart has already sat there and said, especially what they did in Chicago, they pulled out in some cities, in some states, and cited the fact that the theft would never recover, that the profits would never match it to the theft that was lost. Now, think about this for a second. If you are a retail big box store, yes, you do have insurance. Yes, you do. Yes, you do have all your products, things of that nature covered. So if there is a loss, you write it off to the insurance company and get your money back. But like the sheriff said, they can also raise prices, even though they've been compensated by the insurance company. They'll still jack up prices for the loss of profit, and they'll put that on customers who decide not to steal. So it's kind of like, we don't want to do this, but folks have stolen from us. We can't get them. You shop here, so sorry, we got to get you. which may lead to people going somewhere else, which means that businesses do close and the whole cycle starts all over again. The law needs to be changed. It does. I think that, again, with stealing, they're stealing. I mean, folks in here are just, they're bold. Whether it's clothes, shoes, food, vapes, they don't care. It's robin season. But there's no consequence to that outside citations, which tells me that kids are actually able to learn because they know what the law is. And again, with police officers, even though I say F the police a lot of times on here, there are some police that are actually trying to help local business owners. But again, like you said, the mom and pop stores are the ones that are going to suffer because they don't have the same backing as big box stores. But again, it comes right back to that law that unfortunately has been put in place in California until they elect another Republican that'll probably strike it down. That's all I'm saying. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment because usually how the Frack got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. We want to lead you guys out on Friday tomorrow with some good vibrations, and hopefully this next story will do just that.
Our new ABC series, The American Classroom. And this morning, we want to shine a light on an organization called Student Veterans of America. They support veterans who are seeking higher education after serving their country. Our Stephanie Ramos, also an Army Reserve Major, joins us with a group of service members. So, look at them. So
they're right here.
Hey, everybody.
We have a group back there, too. Yeah. Good morning, guys. So I spent some time with Jamie Springston, who is here, and his wife, Dehan, in West Virginia, talking about this organization, the Student Veterans of America organization. We want to share with you what they do. But first, here's Jamie's journey from service to college.
Jamie Springston has always had a passion for serving others, which is why he joined the Navy in 2009 as a corpsman. His experience as an EMT proving to be a valuable asset to the Marine Corps overseas.
The Marine Corps doesn't have a medical department, so they use Navy corpsmen to provide medical services for them.
After serving in combat zones, transitioning back to civilian life was a challenge.
Did you lose any friends during that time?
We've lost some friends since we've gotten back, which is still connected to the overseas trauma.
As he got back to work in the States, he suffered from severe PTSD.
Lots of little things would start taking me back to the places that I didn't really want to be anymore. I didn't seek help for a long time until it started getting really bad. And the memories, the not so pleasant memories took over. So I had to constantly drink to keep them away. Then it just made it worse. I didn't want to be here anymore.
Jamie needed help. That's when a fellow veteran who he served with in Afghanistan stepped in. One of the very veterans Jamie treated when he was injured overseas.
He talked me into the VA, and that's the day I went inpatient for a little while to get my drinking under control and to work on my PTSD.
Would you say he saved you?
He did. He did. And he was in one of the vehicles that got blown up.
So you had saved him before in Afghanistan, and now here you are stateside, and he saves you.
Mm-hmm.
Once he got sober, he found his way to Marshall University.
When I walked onto campus as a 34-year-old freshman, a very non-traditional student, I was uncomfortable. I was scared. I was fresh in recovery. And I said, there has to be someone else here like me.
That's when he discovered Student Veterans of America, an organization that brings veterans together to lift each other up, pursue higher education, and achieve their career goals.
How has SVA changed your life?
It's opened up doors for me that I didn't dream would be possible. It's given me empowerment. It's shown me how diverse and inclusive a veteran community can be. It saved my life.
SVA, changing lives. Jamie, you were so inspired by the work done by SVA that you applied for a job with them. You're already working in your social work field as you finish up your degree. We've talked about this. Talk to us about that transition between active duty service to civilian life. What would be your message to a veteran contemplating that change?
It's a very difficult transition sometimes, but finding that chapter on a university or campus, that's something that'll change the way you go to college, the way you experience college, and beyond. Student Veterans of America is there to help you with every part of that transition and then past it.
No. Well, Stephanie, thank you. Jamie, your beautiful wife, your beautiful family, everybody that is here supporting our veterans. We're going to have more right now. This weekend, Disneyland celebrated veterans and their families with a flag ceremony and a military flyover. And Jamie, we honor you and the veterans that are here in the studio, all the men and women who serve, which is why it is my sincere pleasure to share the news that the Walt Disney Company, our parent company, is donating $1 million to the Student Veterans of America. No, and wait a minute, guys. No, we don't want the applause. Can you direct your applause to the veterans that are here? That's what it's about. That's what we're cheering. Yes. And the Walt Disney Company has had a long commitment to supporting servicemen and women. Our CEO, Bob Iger, has a message just for you.
Just over 10 years ago, we launched an initiative called Heroes Work Here, which was designed to hire veterans. We had a great desire to, in effect, give back to veterans who had served our country so well. And we believe that by obviously providing them job opportunities, that was a great way to do that. Since then, we've hired over 15,000 veterans, which is a great story, and they've proven to be wonderful employees of the company. Our donation to Student Veterans of America is designed to actually teach veterans, to educate them after they've served our country, to even better prepare them for the workplace, to get jobs, not just for Disney, but for any entity out there.
All right, thanks to Bob and his leadership. We are thrilled for everyone. Can you make sure that we get a nice shot? I want to move out of the way to make sure that you get a shot of these wonderful veterans that we have here with us. And we salute all that you do. All right, thank you all so very much.
And again, guys, like we do here on How the Frack Got Here, we definitely do always want to give veterans props and things like that.
And finally tonight, America's
quite you. So again, we do want to give veterans their props. So if you are a serviceman, whether current or retired, thank you for your service. I can go down the road as far as Bob Iger, because right now he needs all the PR he can get. But at least, hey, I mean, they get it right every once in a while. But that being said, guys, we do want to wrap this up. I do want to thank everybody that liked, that shared, that let people know this was live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. You guys know about Netflix, Amazon Prime, things of that nature. You ever get tired of it? I mean, they don't keep your shows. Everything gets dropped. Raising prices again. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus, all of them are raising prices. Tired of it? Tired of seeing your content disappear? Well, I am a part of a conglomerate that is with a new place called Blur Station. Now, Blur Station is quickly becoming the place for buyout for people of color content. Again, I am stressing very heavily because it is something that is new, it is meaningful, and just like what BET was supposed to be, it was supposed to be for us, by us, for us to enjoy. Again, if you don't know what play I'm talking about, if you go to blurstation.com that you see right there, of course, if you do go and you join, and also let me tell you about the joining, it's $10.99 a month. $10.99 a month. You understand? For $10.99 a month, you still have enough money to go out and get something to eat afterwards. That's vital. But if you do want to join, yes, it's $10.99 a month. I would hope that you guys would go to the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership. That's where you'll find me. Of course, with my name under the influencing partner Black Spartan, I would certainly appreciate that, guys, if you would do that and join up. Not just because it helps out, we join the movement. Because we're pushing content like the Undead Horizon. We're pushing out shows like issue number 1, where it's helping comic book creators get their first issue published. No Kickstarter, no fun GoFundMe and things of that nature. An actual show that is getting people of color, comic book creators, their time to shine. And that's just one of many things that you'll find here at Blur Station. But if you decide to join, guys, which I hope you do, definitely go to join now. Select the Blurred's Eye View Infinity membership. Under influence partner, if you don't mind selecting Black Spartan, I would certainly appreciate that. Now, you're probably wondering about the Infinity membership. Why is it called Infinity? Well, because after 36 months of paying $10.99, you will get an opportunity to own a piece of Blur Station. Yes, you will get to own a piece of a streaming network. How many other networks out there could sit there and say you could do the same without going through E-Trade or Forex or things of that nature and paying an assload of money just for a share of a company? But you can do it here for $10.99 a month for 36 months, and you can own a piece of Blur Station. And I'm saying right now, get in while the getting's good, folks. But that's all I'm saying about that. Also, my buddy Vaughn at Big VZA Dot, check him out because he definitely does have a Beats page, Big VZA Dot on all social media, because he is definitely cranking them out. If you need beats for a show or things or for a song that you're doing, definitely hit him up. Of course, for me, guys, Black Box 447 is where you can find me on all socials. I do reviews on everything that I read, that I write, that I watch. At the same time, guys, the banner at the bottom, they make that just a little bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that banner into your browser, we'll take you to my link tree that the YouTube, Facebook groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit Podcast, of course, y'all for this podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think of everything that we talked about, guys. The only rule that I have in the comments is let the facts speak for themselves. And it is completely okay to agree to a disagree on some things. I do know there are some things that we simply, above all else, cannot. There has to be 100% consensus. But for everything else, you can agree to disagree. That's all I'm saying. And again, guys, as we wrap this up, I cannot stress this enough. The presidential race is going to get heated come next year. Trump at this point may or may not see a jail cell. But if he doesn't, you can best believe he will probably win the Republican nomination by a landslide. And Biden, more than likely, will probably win the Democratic nomination if he doesn't have any challengers. I cannot stress this enough. Do we really want to give President, the former failure in chief, former failed reality star, former failed businessman, who has claimed bankruptcy on almost everything he's ever done, do you really want to give this man, about to be convict, another chance at being president? Because plenty of his followers out there would love to give him that chance. The same followers that are giving him money would love to give him that chance. I cannot stress this enough. And this is not a vote for Trump. This sure is not a vote for Trump, but this isn't a vote for Biden either. What I'm simply asking and begging, pleading with you all out there, get informed. Go to reputable sources. Look at these candidates, not just the presidential candidates, because after the presidential race, we get back on the midterms again, which means the Senate and the House are up for grabs again. Plenty of people are going to be running for office for the federal offices, as well as your local in-state office as well. I cannot stress this enough. Get informed about who's running. Get to know their points, their policies, and if it aligns with you, push them forward. Share them. Talk about them. Word of mouth will beat the algorithm any day, because the algorithm can't do what we do. But get informed, get involved, because I say this all the time. Not only should we get involved, but vote. Because if anything, I say this all the time, what happened in Georgia that led to President Biden being elected, that alone should tell you voting is crucial. Because if it wasn't for voting, we would have not had Georgia, number one, would have never turned blue. We would have never had our first black senator out of Georgia. At the same time, we would have never had the talking point that we do have now, which is that voting matters and every vote matters. Find out where you can vote, find out the rules, find out if you're elected, get all that stuff done. Because trust and believe, there is a party out there that's going to make sure that you don't vote. And last time I checked, it wasn't the Democrats. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack we got here, guys, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information to allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first black woman as the National Cybersecurity Director. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go about our paycheck? Why do we elect different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Get informed. Peace.